I'm Mario Martinez Jr., CEO and founder of Vengreso, and we are the creators of flymessage.io, the free personal writing assistant and text expander application. On each episode of this podcast, you will hear from sales leaders, practitioners, and influencers to help you grow your sales numbers at scale. So, get your pen and paper or iPad and keyboard and start taking notes as you're now listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Korn Ferry. Korn Ferry integrates their consultancy, Miller Heiman sales methodology, and technology to bring you Korn Ferry Sell for Salesforce and Microsoft Dynamics 365. Learn more at kornferry.com/sales effectiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Modern Selling Podcast. And, I'm really excited because I actually believe that I've had more female leadership on the show in the last 120 days than I've had in the last 2 years combined. Wow. And I'm so excited about that, actually, that I'm having another one of my homies, my girls, Dionne Mejer, the CEO and founder of Inside Sales by Design, and also now a book author, and it is out, well, at least in pre-order right now, The Stepped Approach. Dionne, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much, Mario. It's so nice being here. So nice to see you again.
Well, I am very happy to have you on. Sometimes it's hard to be able to get our different types of diverse perspectives. And I've been wanting to get lots of female leadership on this call. And I got you. You heard what I said. It's been like, I think I honestly have had more female leadership in the last 120 days than I did in like the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think I really like what you said too, is this the diversity of thought, right? We all think so differently. That it's just so important to have those different perspectives for sure.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the new book getting launched. Before we get into any of that, do me a favor, tell everybody just a little bit about your background. And then I've got a very special question for you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I've been in my background in a nutshell. I've been in sales and tech for 20 some odd years at this point. Grew up in the Midwest world. So I'm a Chicago native living in Southern California now, and grew up in the tech world and everything from not-for-profits to hardware, software, and everything in between, professional services. I worked for a Microsoft partner, built and scaled a bunch of different inside sales teams. I'm a member of the AAISP as well as the Sales Enablement Society. And just love what I do. Started Inside Sales by Design 8 years ago, working with organizations to build, scale, and transform. Well, it used to be inside sales, but now they're sales teams, and quite frankly, sometimes their entire go-to-market function into a modern, thoughtful selling engine that has a great customer experience.
I love it. So well qualified here to spend some time talking to sales leaders, business owners, and new sales folks. Actually, no, I'm sorry, new sales leaders, especially with respects to the stepped approach. But as you know, as a listener to my podcast, I always ask a very special question at the beginning and at the end. And so the one I'm looking for is tell us something about you that nobody knows, even if they're looking at any or all of your social profiles. And, I've had all kinds of stuff. I ran an illegal college poker ring to pay my way through college. I had an extra appendage until I was 18 and then got it cut off. It was something as simple as I've got, a husband, 2 dogs, and 2 kids. So
hey,
give us something juicy, Dionne. Give us something juicy.
Oh gosh. Okay. So I'll give you 2. So my first job out of college, I was a sales administrator for a company that manufactured supplies for the rental industry. And I drove the forklift. So we manufactured and distributed. So I actually drove the forklift without a driver's license for it. Because I guess you're supposed to have one. I don't know. I didn't know.
That breaks a couple OSHA rules, but that's okay.
Quite a bit, especially in the land of Chicago, right? Where there's the union and all that jazz. So that was kind of fun. And then I still actually have a baby tooth. So nobody really knows that either. Yes.
wait, you still have one now?
I do.
How
I
cute is
do.
that?
I know, it never came out. It's down here. So yeah, it's on my lower left. Yeah. So I still have a baby tooth. So I've had a few dentists try to yank it out. And I'm like, hey man, let's not be yanking on my
If
mouth.
it if the new one never came in, never pushed the baby one out, you might as well keep it until, it's
Yeah.
necessary.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
that's the first one I've gotten on I still have a baby tooth. I love it. I love it.
Yes. It's so funny. Yes.
Very, very cool. Well, congratulations on the new book, The Stepped Approach.
Yes.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, the subtitle, Onboard Better,
Yep.
Systemize Smarter,
Yep.
Bring Out the Best in the Sales Teams. Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah. Good.
Tell us a
No,
little
it's a
about
lot.
who the target, who did you write this book for?
Yeah. So I wrote it for all sales leaders. So whether you're kind of a newer sales leader or even a sales leader with some tenure, there's always something we can learn. And I think especially now, the I think COVID and the what we just went through accelerated a lot of motions that were in play in our industries and with our sales teams. And even quite frankly, our go-to-market teams and our perception. There's a lot of ripple effect. And a lot of what needs to happen now is how do we manage in a remote environment? How do we have a good customer experience? How do we have conversations? How do we set the stage and have expectations for our teams in this new world order where we have four generations in the workplace, where everybody's remote, where people are not surprised by anything anymore? I know to the minute when packages are delivered, right? I can get blood work done. I can get cancer screening. We can get things done that we never used to think was possible. So this book is for everybody who is living in the world we're in that knows there's no such thing as a surprise anymore.
Yeah, fair enough. Great points. And I love the fact that you've written this around business leaders, business owners that are responsible for sales, targeting new sales leaders and leaders that kind of want to refresh to become a
Yeah.
modern sales leader. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's really great that you've developed this around that particular audience, because there's not enough of coaching, mentoring, thought leadership to help the new person and or the legacy own business owner or sales leader to really develop into that thought leader and or sales leader that other people want to follow. So you may have mentioned some of these things, but let's talk about some of the top trends that you're seeing in the marketplace for sales teams and for just teams in general.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the trends we're seeing is this collision of worlds of I've been doing this for 5 years and I have all this experience. I've been doing this for 20 years. I have all this experience. I'm fresh out of college and still living at home with my parents, right? And none of that is bad. All of it is good. To what we talked about at the beginning of the podcast is how do we take these diverse experiences, knowing that everybody wants to show up and do a really good job. Again, nobody wakes up going, I hope I suck today. It's going to be amazing, right? So, how do we as leaders kind of get above the noise? What's going on in the world we're in? How do we take this diverse group of folks with different experiences, different perspectives, different mindsets, and different experience levels and bring everybody together to have a really, really good customer experience? Right. And I think that's the piece. So, from a trend perspective, I think, some leaders that are back on their heels been pre COVID and it's accelerated that. Right. So, it's definitely a little bit of a punch in the gut. And so, from a trend perspective, it's how do we do it? How do we train? How do we teach? How do we bring worlds together? How do we make sure not only do we have our internal process? So when we work with organizations, we call it, what is our internal process? And then what is our external process? And oh, by the way, our external process is customer facing, and our customer doesn't care about our internal process, nor should they. That's not their job. So we're definitely seeing a lot of these motions and components. We're seeing people embrace technology where it's, oh man, I didn't know tech could do that. Yes, please use text to type. Stop typing on a call. Please stop. right? Go to your transcript, hire an intern, hire a journalist, but for the love of God, stop typing on a call. There's no reason for it anymore, right? So things like that, where we're able to embrace technology and systematize what we have to have a better experience. So we are in tune with people because right now we're doing a lot of screen time. So a little bit of a long answer, but from a trend perspective, how do we bring all that together?
Okay, so we got 4 generations in the workplace. How
Yeah.
do we give a good customer experience?
Yeah.
That looks at taking the internal processes,
Mhm.
our external processes, and systematizing those things to be able to drive a good customer experience.
100%.
So was that what you call that, like one trend, or was that like three in one?
No, I think the overarching principle, Mario, is, and again, I don't have research behind this, right? From an anecdotal perspective and what I'm seeing and hearing, listening to calls with teams, people are after a good customer experience. Do your research, show up prepared. So the overarching principle is, are we, are our customer facing go to market teams able to interact and have a conversation? Are we able to provide that experience? Everything else that you recapped, those are the sub bullets. And they're super important because you can't have a great conversation without laying the foundation to be knowledgeable to begin with. So how are we equipping our team and making it okay for them to have this really amazing conversation that touches on the business side of the house, if they're, for example, a SaaS company, while also showing a product or a platform. So there's this is not for the faint of heart. And so there's a lot going on. So yeah, the overarching theme is good customer call, good customer experience.
I want to give you a scenario. I want you to tell me if this is a good customer experience or a bad customer experience, and then how we might um, do something different to bring out the best in this salesperson. I have a good friend who works for a technology company. He is the manager over their solutions engineering, sales support for Asia Pac and all of Europe and Africa.
Mm.
I have a need. We happen to be talking about it, and he's like, "Oh, my company could totally do that." It's like, yes, I thought that they could do as well. I met him at SaaStr,
Yeah.
really never pursued it. And I knew that your competitor A and B were in the loop. I am talking to them. And he was like, dude, why don't you talk to us? And I'm like, no reason. He's like, why don't I put you in touch with, the sales team and let me make sure you have a good experience? I said, phenomenal. So sales, he makes introduction. Salesperson reaches out and I say, I'm so glad to meet you. A friend of my friend is a friend. Let's have a discussion. Here is what we're looking for. 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Here's what I want. 1, 2, 3. Here's what I need to be available on this call. 1, 2, 3. Here's what I already know. 1, 2, 3. And this is what I want to cover on the discussion.
Yeah.
ABC.
Done.
Now, I am a buyer that obviously has done my
Yes.
homework. I know exactly what I'm looking for.
Yep.
And then I specifically make a request to ensure that you bring the right people to this first call.
Yep.
So we have our first call. Salesperson joins the call. I then proceed to say, are we waiting for anyone else from your side? Salesperson says, no, it's just me.
Oh,
And I say,
right.
okay, what's on your agenda? He says, well, my agenda is I want to kind of get to know you and I want to get to know some of your requirements. And then once I understand those things, then I can bring the team back. And I say, okay, did I not outline some of those things for you through messaging? He was like, no, you did, but I wanted to kind of deep dive in some of those things before I brought in other people. And I said, okay, you can do that. I'm happy to, but you're 3 meetings behind now, your competition.
Right.
And I am happy to bring you in the loop because my very good friend is one of your senior managers, but I was very clear in terms of what I was looking for. Now, you may not know me, but I am a educated buyer.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's your job to figure out whether or not my knowledge is correct or not, which is why I wanted these other people. So we spend 22 minutes for a 30-minute call, and clearly he couldn't answer any of the questions. And at the end, he's like, okay, sounds like you have a real need. And I need to bring in John, Billy, and Susie. And I say, that's exactly what I told you on the email. And he subsequently says, let me follow up. And then doesn't follow up.
Oh, shoot.
2 weeks later, I get another email saying your account has been reassigned to me as a senior account executive. Because of the nature of the complexities of the problems that you're trying to solve, we wanted to put this into a more capable set of hands. Okay, interesting. So I say, great, I'll have another call. He says, great, let's do it. I say, what's your agenda? I want to get to know you. I want to learn your requirements. And I said, did you listen to the recording from the last call since you had a gong-like tool? And he says, no, not yet, but I will. And I said, before you book that call, you need to listen to that call. And if it makes sense to have a call, you probably would want to have a different agenda. I'll stop right there with the story and we can continue on. Talk about that.
That is terrible on every level imaginable. I'm so sorry. Right. And so I think so. This is the interesting piece with all that, Mario, is you're nicer than some other folks, right? There's camps where there's a lot of grace, and I'm a fan of grace. But I also think there's a balance between that where it's, hey man, I told you everything that needed to happen. I'm an educated buyer. We need to move quickly. That's a problem, right? And so I think what I'm hearing from this too is there's no continuity of conversation. So when we go in and we talk with teams and we build playbooks and we think about process, we build an overarching theme, right? And we roll that out and we repeat it and we repeat it and we repeat it and we repeat it, right? Then to your point, there's continuity of conversation. And which is do your homework, do your pre-call planning, show up prepared to have a conversation. It's not about you. So that's what I'm hearing is this was all about, hey, we have an internal process and we need people to follow this internal process. Nobody cares except the internal process people. So I'm sorry, that's really terrible. And so, I mean, I know there's a couple different camps too on the whole, hey, we're not demo jockeys. If somebody asks for a demo, you have to qualify them first. You know what? To your point, this is where the experience from a leadership needs to come into play that says we have to have the 80-20 rule that if I see somebody from this company with this level of experience, whatever the case may be, they maybe this industry demographic, whatever, and they ask for a demo, I'm going to give them a demo and I'm going to train my team to be smart enough to deliver the demo and do a disco at the same time so that it's a good customer experience. Again, we don't live in this B2B world where people don't have information. Al Gore invented the internet for a reason. If you don't get that joke, go back and look. Right. So it's so terrible at the end of the day. And this is the problem we're trying to solve for.
You nailed it. This is that internal versus external process,
100%.
right? And when you said that, it triggered this discussion, which was, well, look, we've been training salespeople for, many, many years, thousands upon thousands of salespeople. And as I saw this unfold, I thought, oh my God, this is a pure sales leadership problem because the sales leadership team is training them to go step A, then step B, then step C.
Yeah.
That may work if you were back in 1995.
Yes, if then even, right? And I think, Mario, to that point too, is process is linear. So when we are teaching and we're educating, absolutely, it's very linear, it's very concrete, if this, then this, right? 100%. That is how we teach. When we are engaging with humans, then we have to get a little bit random and abstract. And we have to be able to, as a sales professional, know our process, but listen and engage with our buyer. And if we hear this, we're going to take the conversation in this way, right? This is not a diagnostic mechanical conversation. I'm not taking my car in. I'm not ordering from the drive-through, right? This is a B2B conversation with a human that is buying a platform, software, service, whatever that their organization needs. So I'm not trying to overcomplicate it. I'm not trying to inflate anything, because sometimes it's sales leaders don't want to slow down to speed up. And the thing of it is that our head needs to get around the fact that as sales leaders, as companies, we owe it to our teams to have a system in place for them to operate within. It's like we call it lines on the road. So I'll ask sales leaders, what's your sales process? Blank look. What are your expectations? What do you mean? What are our expectations? And I get it. Sometimes it feels like we are being fundamental and sometimes juvenile. Do you tell your team to show up on time? Do you tell them to be prepared? Do you show up on time? Do you show up prepared? Do you show up with an agenda as the leader? Would you work for you? Right. And we all have this. So that's why we all need an accountability team. We all need a coach, whether it's, an external professional or a colleague, because we too get down in it, right? So how are we doing these things? So that's where it's, do we have a system? Do we give the team something to lean against and lean into? Please. Yeah, that's the direction we want to go in. Mhm.
So thinking of some of the trends that we just talked about,
Yeah.
how how are you seeing companies address these trends successfully or unsuccessfully?
It depends on the leadership. I mean, a lot of times what I'll see is leaders will embrace certain things if it's easier for them, of course, and that's human nature, right? And sometimes they kind of poo-poo certain things. So you got to really be careful with that. Our job, from our perspective, it's really, we call it, we're going to come in and be the favorite aunt status. All right, we are the great sales translators at the end of the day, because the team, the frontline people want direction. Sometimes we think they don't. And I'm not saying to treat them like children. What I am saying is we need to be very clear. So, Mario, thank you for joining our team. I want to share with you our expectations. Here's what that looks like. Questions, comments, feedback, right? And here's how we want to have a good conversation. We're going to read these case study a week, present back to the team. So when we say have a system in place, those are the things we're talking about. Go through this case study. If you have pen and paper or you want to do it digitally, highlight the key areas, come together as a team. What are the key words? How are you using it? Track it in Gong, right? All that good stuff. Leadership needs to kind of bridge that gap that says, my team needs direction. There needs to be something concrete. So, one of the examples that I give people, and it's in the book, is my son is on the autism spectrum and very concrete linear thinker, as am I. And he was probably 7. He's 11 now. And I said, hey, you got to go clean your room. Like any half smart child, he shoved all his stuff under the bed in the closet. It was a mess, right? And so I said, hey, that's not how that's going to work. And duh me, he's 7. He's never cleaned his room before. He has no idea what I mean. Zero. So I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a step back, and we stepped through it. Here's where we put our clothes away. These toys go here. Here's how we make a bed, right? And so we systematically went through, put his stuff away, cleaned his room. We took a step back and said, all right, when mommy says go clean your room, this is what this looks like. I had to do that one time. So it's the same thing with our teams when we say, hey, we are after a great customer experience. Here's what that means. Here's how we do that. And here's how we're going to train on it. So leaders have to embrace that or not.
So thinking back at the example that I gave,
Yeah.
one of the things that I thought was a tremendous missed opportunity was I was originally talking to an SMB rep.
Yeah.
I got moved into the mid-market rep. Now something happened. I said something that triggered me from going from the small business to the mid-market. Okay, great. And the
Great.
handoff was a humongous missed opportunity in terms of a system. That handoff instead of the rep reaching out to me saying, I'm your new account executive. We want to be able to give you better support, and your account really should be over here. The missed opportunity, in my opinion, was the sales leader reaching out and saying, "Dear Mario, based upon your relationship with
Yep.
whoever it is
100%.
internally,
Yep.
and the fact that we believe that you'd be better served in this market, we made a decision strategically as a leadership team to move your account from this to this.
Yep.
We don't want to lose any continuity with you, but
Mhm.
I do want to give my new account executive an opportunity to be able to listen to the call that you had,
Yep.
read through the emails, and then come back to you with the plan that will showcase to you why we can be much more successful in this market working with this team, and why you can be uber successful working with our platform and our company."
Yes.
Right? The missed opportunity, but rather what we had was this handoff between salesperson and salesperson, and John didn't know what the left hand was doing, and Bobby didn't tell the left hand what needed to be done, or the right hand what needed to be done.
It happens. Yeah. And you're right, Mario, with that. And to your point, pick up the phone, right? Everybody still wants to hide behind digital. Pick up the phone, send a text message, send a video message, send a message on LinkedIn, own it. Right. And so one of the things too we talk about, and I struggle with this, right? Which is why I have my own tribe of coaches too, where state the obvious. I struggle with that. Oh man alive. But to your point, again, don't lead and come at me with your process. I don't care if I went from SMB to mid-market. Doesn't mean anything. It has no meaning. What does have meaning is I gave you everything I needed as the buyer, and you did whatever the hell you wanted. So, I mean,
Oh,
Mario, if you're going to continue to engage, you're a better man than I am.
well, I would say moving from SMB to mid market is one of those chivalries that could make you feel a little bit important, right? And
It
as soon as I read that, I thought, oh, all right, well, maybe we're bigger than what I thought we were, right? Um, and if I was going to use that as the use case, then at least I have a system in place that to help that person understand that you are a super important, valuable
doesn't.
customer,
Yep.
and you were in the wrong spot before, but now you're in the right spot. And here's why: it's all the reasons for the right spot. And that comes from the leadership team. And that's where I
It
think was a
really
missed
does.
opportunity.
I agree with you, Mario. And sometimes, I mean, how many times have we seen it, right? Where maybe you have a bad experience at a restaurant, or even you just go to a restaurant and the manager is circulating, "Hi, how are you? How's your food? Let me get you some more water." Right? That level of humility just goes such a long way.
Yeah.
That being in service to, right? And calling somebody going, "Hey, I know we kind of had a little bit of a fumble here. Here's how we're going to fix it." And being assumptive with it and being humble with it. Man, it's so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I think we're having a challenge with right now is motivating our teams.
Yeah.
We have a four generations, as you mentioned, and what motivates the boomers and the the Xers, Gen X, it may not be necessarily what motivates the Gen Z or millennials,
Right.
or vice versa.
Yeah.
And so, thinking about that specific problem in your experience, what have you seen companies and leaders do to create a motivating environment? But before you answer that question, we're going to listen to this message from our program sponsor.
Korn Ferry understands talent, and in the sales world, it's no different. Korn Ferry transforms sales teams using their world-class Miller-Hyman methodology, employee assessments, benchmarking, and talent advisory capabilities to increase win rates and quota attainment. Korn Ferry offers Korn Ferry Sell, a sales effectiveness app available in AppExchange and AppSource that helps your sales team develop and replicate powerful sales strategies that help sellers win more deals and crush their quotas. Learn more at kornferry.com/sales effectiveness. That's kornferry.com/sales effectiveness.
Okay, right before that break, I was asking you, in your experience, what have you seen companies and leaders do to create a motivating environment?
Yeah. So I love what you said there, where motivating environment, because sometimes sales leaders or leaders in general think I have to hire motivated employees. Absolutely, right? But unless we are making sure their gas tank is full, that motivated employee quickly burns out if we do not have the right environment and tools and systems in place. So I think it's really important that we do have a motivating environment. So I think it's clear expectations, and a purpose. So when we work with organizations, I am not a fan of a mission statement. I think it's an old school way to think of things. So we always create purpose statements. And sometimes I'll talk with CEOs and I'll say, hey, could we just change it instead of mission statement to purpose statement? Are we okay with that? Right? Because we create team purpose statements, we create personal, professional purpose statements, and we share those as much as people are comfortable, um, with that. Because then to your point, everybody's in a different stage, right? So we're at the point where we're making sure we're saving for college. Some other folks might be in college or have kids in college. Some other people might be fresh out of college or saving for a house, right? Or whatever. So what is everybody's purpose? And what does that look like? So the more and so I would say those are some of the fundamentals that you can use to create a motivating environment. Give your team responsibility. Have them be part of the process. The worst thing we can do is start telling people what to do and not having them be a part of it. So we're definitely seeing that trend. We're seeing more. And one of the things that leaders do when we teach and talk with people about is, hey, let's build out a skills matrix. What are some of the skills you want your team to have? How do we get them? And is there somebody on the team that does that really well that can teach the team? Right. So because the goal is to create this self-driving team. And how do we do that? Right. How do we, especially in a remote environment, how do we keep everybody together and keep it going and keep it fun? So those are some of the things that we teach that I'm also seeing in some of the organizations out there. And it's a lot of fun. And again, humility. Be a leader that's humble. Be the leader that's going to pick up the phone, right? Get on the phone, send the Thanksgiving card, send the anniversary card, right? Starbucks gift card, it doesn't matter, right? Acknowledge, recognition, what love language professionally do our teams have that they need to be filled?
So interesting you mentioned the skills matrix. Uh, I have a individual on our marketing team that we are grooming into different types of roles, like being that chameleon, right? And in the marketing organization, unless you're a video designer or you are a graphic designer, whereas those types of skills are essentially individual, right? Like
Yeah.
if you're a graphic designer, you'll likely always be a graphic designer. If you're a video designer, you'll likely always be a video designer, right? There's not much crossover into other departments. But you can be a social media manager and move into a content marketing role. You can be a content marketing manager and you can move into a digital marketing role. You can be a digital marketer and you can move into a growth marketer role. You can be any of those one I just mentioned, and you can move into a product development role as an example. So you can be very chameleon. So thinking of that, I have an individual on our team who was previously our social media manager and now has moved into a marketing coordinator role, which is essentially basically all projects lead to that individual.
Wow.
And that person is learning basically all roles, all responsibilities, and they're managing each of those individual efforts in every one of those individual silos to make sure
Wow.
that everything gets done. Now, that's the stepping stone to go into leadership. It's a
Yeah.
stepping stone to go into a more individualized role like content marketing or digital marketing or SEO or any of those types of things. So while I have marketing that obviously reports to me, everybody on the marketing team reports to me except that one person. That one person reports to my COO.
Oh.
Now, why did I do that? The reason why I did that is because in the skills matrix of areas of significant improvement is the project management side of the house.
Got
And
it.
in order to be uber successful in that particular role, you need to understand how to better project manage to keep everybody on task, on
Yep.
time, and to deliver. Where my COO is an amazing project leader,
That's
much
cool.
better than I am. And so it didn't make sense for the this marketer to report directly to me, or it made sense to the daily coaching, the reviews, all those things. He reported directly to my COO, dotted line to me for
Yep.
obviously supporting the marketing business.
Yeah.
Now that's an interesting scenario there, because in that particular case, like we made that conscious
Yeah.
decision so to help develop the skills that person needed to develop, to take them to the next level, was
Yeah.
better to go that route. Are these the types of things that you guys are, not you guys, sorry, you are reviewing inside of the book, trends and ideas that you've got coming out, or are there other things that you discuss?
Yeah, so that is such a great story, Mario, and really speaks to having that objective view of a role and responsibility, number one, and then parlaying that to the human element of it, right? So when we work with organizations, and even in the book, we talk about have a skills matrix. A lot of organizations don't, right? And sometimes I think a lot of the things that you and I are talking about seem really big, and maybe they seem like they're going to take a long time. And so it's one of those slow down to speed up components where you need a blueprint. And if I'm going to build a house of any kind, I need a blueprint, I need an architectural firm. That blueprint process can take anywhere 2 weeks to 3 months, right? Depends. And so in this case, though, our blueprint, we can sketch it out on a napkin. The goal is to keep it able to adjust and evolve whatever you come up with. So the overarching themes won't change. So I say that to say, some people don't even have a skills matrix. They haven't identified those skills. I haven't stopped to think about it yet. But yes, is the short answer. We think about a skills matrix, and we have an example. We have a template that we bring to our engagements because it's easier to edit than it is to create at the end of the day. And so to your point, we break it down into hard skills and soft skills. And we might not start with all 10 that we have listed. Maybe we start with 3. And then to your point, we start building that out, and you put in milestones and things of that nature. And again, it doesn't have to be hard and fast, but there does need to be an objective component to it because that's what's fair. And it also gives people a goal, right? This ambiguous floating hoo-ha-ness that's going on right now. Nobody can be successful because we don't know what success looks like. So we have to give people what success looks like. Yeah.
Good. So we talk about some of these things inside of the stepped approach. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And obviously, new sales leaders will be given the resources to help with systematizing smarter,
Absolutely.
bringing out the best in our sales teams, and I assume onboarding better. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, how many stories have you heard where people to this day, it's almost 2023, and they still start somewhere and they literally are given maybe mailed a laptop at this point. They don't even get a desk anymore, right? They're still at home. They may or may not get a stipend. Who knows? There's 85,000 programs in the company. And they just kind of sit there.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Good. If you were to think out one best tip to a new sales leader on how to bring out the best in their sales team, what would it be? Maybe take one from the book.
Yeah, I think it's you don't have to have a full program built out. I would say if you're a sales leader and you want to bring out the best in your team, have a system, even if it consists of sending out meeting invites, right? Just have a system, have a direction for your team, have clear expectations, and incorporate the learning pyramid. So I love the learning pyramid because it talks about how people learn and absorb information, and especially the world we live in now. So if we're all remote, right, make sure you're incorporating video and reading and teach backs and participation and creation together and all that good stuff. So involve people.
And what is the learning pyramid one more time?
Yeah, so there's a graphic of it. You can Google it. I use the one from the National Training Institute, I think, in the book. And so it's an inverted pyramid, and it's directly correlated to the how we present information is how much we retain. So verbal is 10%, involvement 100%, right? So our pastor at church would always say, great, you're going to forget 90% of what I say by tomorrow. So he's like, that's why we have a handout. That's why you take notes. And so incorporating all the ways people work together. So like, for example, when we work with folks, we have training worksheets and we have people write stuff down. And I know that may seem old school because a colleague of mine goes, nobody under 40 has printers at home anymore. So we still mail paper to people and have them write it down. And so incorporating all the different ways people learn and retain information at the end of the day. So reading it, writing it, hearing it, doing a teach back, creating a video on Zoom, doing a teach, stuff like that. Yeah.
Excellent. I love it. So how can people go and buy the book, The Stepped Approach?
You can buy the book on Amazon and that'll be available for you there.
And it is in pre-order status, correct?
It will be pre-order available in December. We'll ship in February.
Excellent. And so for all of you out there, you got to make sure that you help support my girl, Dionne. Get out there and buy the book, The Stepped Approach. This is for business owners responsible for sales, new sales leaders, as well as leaders that want to be a modern sales leader and motivate their team to the next level. You're going to love it. Dionne's an amazing thought leader. And so you get out there and buy that book. But Dionne, if someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way? Is it Twitter, LinkedIn, email?
Yeah, LinkedIn still is the best place there. All my contact information is there, my email as well as my cell phone number. So that's going to be the best place to do that. And I look forward to talking with everybody.
Hey, when you reach out to Dionne, please make sure that you say that you heard her on the Modern Selling podcast. Make sure she knows that you came as a listener. Do not send her just that little connect button and not leave a note. Make sure you tell her, please, 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 please. Dionne, I always ask everybody this very last question, super important. Your all-time favorite movie, what is it?
Oh, gosh. That is such a great question. So many to choose from. So all-time favorite. I'm going to say The Greatest Showman.
Oh, that's a good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a good one. Uplifting.
Why?
The music and the performances, so amazing. And my kids and I all sing it. And yeah, it's a feel-good movie.
There you go. The Greatest Showman. You've got it there, everyone. Hey, don't turn that dial just quite yet. Make sure you tune in for this very important message right now.
Korn Ferry sales effectiveness solutions are increasing win rates by over 20%. Find out how they can help your sales team. Visit kornferry.com/sales effectiveness. That's kornferry.com/sales effectiveness. Thanks for listening to the Modern Selling Podcast. Please do me a huge favor and give the Modern Selling Podcast a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. Oh, and don't forget, if you'd like to save 20 hours or more in a month and increase your productivity, go right now and download Fly Message, that's flymsg.io for free. It's your free text expander and personal writing assistant. Hey, thanks for listening in, and until the next episode, good selling.